What part of the preparation for the role was so strenuous that it made Regé-Jean Page cry? What was the most unexpected challenge the Bridgerton cast had to face?
Now that we're sort of getting nervous and thinking, oh gosh, people are going to watch this.
And why Phoebe Dynevor had to watch the show with the remote in her hand? Hi, I'm Joy. Let's dive in. Exhausting training on the Regency lifestyle. Being a perfect lady or gentleman of the Regency era was a tough task in itself, and so was bringing such characters to life on screen. So, soon after being cast in the show, its stars Phoebe Dynevor and Regé-Jean Page were invited to a Regency bootcamp. There, they spent 6 weeks immersing themselves in all things from Jane Austen's era. A short course to become a picture-perfect 19th century debutante for Phoebe Dynevor included costume fittings, piano lessons, Regency history and etiquette training, horse riding, and dance rehearsals. Apart from learning how to carry himself in the style of the time, Regé-Jean Page also underwent rigorous boxing training for his role. This was necessary, not only for perfecting Regé's body, but also because the style of combat in the 1800s was completely different to now, and gloves were foregone for bare-knuckle boxing. And the intense preparation didn't actually stop when the shooting began. This is how Regé recalls his typical working day.
I was up 5 a.m. every morning, I was running to the gym, I had a man scream things at me for an hour. I came home, I took a shower, had a little cry, went to set, the worst had happened, the rest of the day was going to be great.
The rest of the cast also took advantage of the pre-shooting training. Claudia Jessie shared that they had, among other things, amazing historians on set to consult with, and a voice and dialect coach to help them talk like the 19th century upper class. And her co-star Sabrina Bartlett actually learnt to sing for the role, taking lessons at the Royal Opera House. However, not every Bridgerton actor was equally enthusiastic about the training. Jonathan Bailey revealed that he asked to avoid training with the fight coordinator as much as he could.
I did actually request to have as minimal fighting training as possible because I find that real masculine environment quite stressful.
Surprisingly, he did the same with dance rehearsals. As his character Anthony didn't have to dance in the series yet, Jonathan was allowed to skip dance classes. And speaking about dancing, working hard on creating that chemistry. Of course, Phoebe Dynevor and Regé-Jean Page knew quite a lot about their characters and their relationship from the scripts, but the showrunners wanted them to already have that special connection before the filming of Bridgerton started. And a great help in creating Simon and Daphne's mesmerizing chemistry were the dance rehearsals. Actually, it was kind of a side effect to prepping for the dazzling ball scenes.
So once you've spent that many hours on the dance floor with someone, being close with someone, literally catching each other when you fall, and we did fall because we weren't brilliant dancers to begin with, then a lot of it happens quite organically.
By the way, Phoebe was really nervous about the dancing, as she'd never considered herself to be a good dancer. To take away that stress and pressure of learning the elaborate Regency-era dances, the choreographer Jack Murphy allowed the cast to rehearse to Beyoncé, Stormzy, and Rihanna to bring a modern energy to the routines. Phoebe Dynevor revealed that the long hours in the studio drew the actors closer to each other. We just spent so much time sort of getting the moves right and dancing to this modern, fun music, and we just got time to play and sort of form a connection. Well, this Regency dance crash course clearly worked. Phoebe and Regé brought incredible chemistry to the screen, but it wasn't the last challenge they had to face. Wearing very uncomfortable costumes. One of the reasons why Bridgerton has captured so many viewers' hearts is its elaborate empire waist dresses, extravagant rhinestone-encrusted gowns, embroidered suits, feathers, and finery. But all these regal-looking costumes can hardly be called comfortable to wear.
Those dresses were so heavy because it was a dress that had lots of embellishment on it, and then you had, sort of puffy stuff underneath. That's not the technical term, but to make it bigger. And then you got like a cape that has a train that's like 6 foot.
And that wasn't all. There was also a corset, a wig, sometimes also a crown and a feather headpiece. Nicola Coughlan revealed that it's extremely hard to walk in her debutante dress and totally impossible to sit. However, she loved it because the look was simply phenomenal. Bridgerton depicts how uncomfortable the body-hugging undergarments were. Nonetheless, the actors were in a more privileged position in comparison to their characters. The corsets were designed exclusively by Mr. Pearl himself. This French couturier's clients include the likes of Beyoncé and Dita Von Teese, and he's behind Kim Kardashian's incredible look at the 2019 Met Gala. But still, wearing them all day long was a tough experience.
Like that sense of relief with all your ribs just contract. You're like, oh my God, it's incredible.
So nice. Such a nice feeling. And taking off the wigs is quite satisfying as well.
Golda Rosheuvel revealed that she was double corseted, and there were a couple of times where she had to ask to loosen her corset immediately because she felt like she was going to faint. Oh yes, wigs were another detail that sometimes made filming the show unbearable. Nicola Coughlan spent about 2 hours getting into Penelope's wig and getting ball ready before filming each scene. She recalled that her head was all covered in a special kind of wig glue, and her own hair was all wet underneath it. Not the nicest experience in the world, right? Moreover, as Nicola is pretty short in real life, she was originally supposed to wear heels so she would be eye level with her co-stars, but she fell over several times while wearing them, and then she tripped and stabbed Claudia Jessie in the hand with her parasol and actually drew blood. Thankfully, it was the first and last time she had to wear heels on the set of Bridgerton. And if you think that the men were happy about their costumes, you're wrong. Jonathan Bailey complained that he felt uncomfortable wearing his dance belt and white trousers, which can be quite unforgiving.
So the dance belt was kind of like a thong. And that took a while to get used to. And if you're wearing a thong whilst riding a horse, you know.
But in certain scenes, the actors didn't wear a lot of clothes. Rehearsing intimate scenes like stunts. Nude scenes are never easy to shoot, so the Bridgerton creators introduced a novelty to the filming set, an intimacy coordinator. It's a relatively new thing to the industry, but the actors soon appreciated the effort of choreographing the steamy scenes before the actual shooting.
Because it really, really helps. You know, you get to rehearse, you get to block all these scenes like they are, you know, a stunt.
Surprisingly, Phoebe Dynevor's first scene she had to film was that very scene in the library, and here all the prep work came into play. She knew exactly where and when Regé would put his hands, how they should both move, and so on, and it made her feel safe and just perform at her best.
It's no longer awkward because you know what you're doing.
Phoebe revealed that she's very proud of the scenes after all because they feel very, very real, probably even too real. But we'll get to that a little bit later. And now we'll talk about the most unexpected challenge the Bridgerton cast had to face: keeping a straight face. Did you know that in Regency times, the scene where Benedict Bridgerton sits in the carriage with Madame de la Croix would be entirely improper? According to strict social rules of the era, non-relatives could never sit next to each other so as to stop any indecent contact, like a knee or arm touching. Fortunately, in our times, things are much easier. But Regé-Jean Page still found the carriage scenes one of the most difficult to shoot, for a very unexpected reason. It turns out the horses in the series were mostly pulling completely empty carriages down the streets of London, and the carriage scenes with the cast inside of them were filmed on a soundstage. Regé found it really hard not to laugh while filming these moments, because the crew members themselves were shoving the carriages to give the illusion that they were moving.
Which I always found incredibly surreal and very hard to kind of hold a serious face when I know that Pete's at the back going, you know?
And the real horses once made Phoebe Dynevor and Jonathan Bailey's working day very difficult. Right after they said action, the horses started going backwards instead of lightly cantering. Jonathan and Phoebe didn't want to hold up the crew and tried to deliver their lines, but eventually both actors were simply crying with laughter. Living up to the fans' expectations. When the actors bring to life the characters who are loved by millions, they often feel quite nervous about it. Amazingly, most of the cast didn't know about the popularity of Julia Quinn's novels, but little by little, they grew to understand it.
I think I felt the most pressure to get these characters right for the fans, you know, the fans that love the books.
And Nicola Coughlan did the bravest thing of all. She was the first one cast in the show, so after getting the job, the actress read the Bridgerton books. Moreover, she went lurking on the fan forums online and discovered the huge fandom behind the series. Nicola also realized that the fans really loved Penelope, so she felt a lot of pressure because she didn't want to let them down. They really wanted Emma Stone to be cast, so I was like, "I'm really sorry that it's me," she shared. Fortunately, when the casting was announced, the die-hard fans approved. By the way, Coughlan's forum mining came in rather useful for the other cast members. Phoebe Dynevor says that they considered Nicola as the spokesperson for the Bridgerstans and turned to her if they had any fan questions. However, Phoebe herself chose to avoid the forums for my own mental health. And now it's time to reveal the most challenging thing that the actors had to face as cast members of the show. Forget about watching Bridgerton with your family. We, the audience, might consider the show to be the perfect way to escape into another world. But can its cast actually advise their families to watch it? The abundance of hot, intimate moments definitely made things a little uncomfortable for the 25-year-old Phoebe Dynevor. Fortunately, her parents are both in the entertainment industry. They know how hard I worked and how much it meant to me getting that role, she shared. But not my grandparents. And with my younger brother, well, it's awkward. So when Phoebe watched the series with them, she kept the remote in her hand the entire time.
I had to stand there with the remote, ready at any given point to fast forward and for them not to see any.
And Regé-Jean Page said that one of his cousins had to make a bunch of tactical cups of tea while watching the show for no particular reason. She just felt the urge to leave the room and put the kettle on, but it didn't really help her because Simon and Daphne know how to have fun in the library, in the study, on the grass, well, you know. So if you, by any chance, have to watch Bridgerton with your relatives, here is Nicola Coughlan's recipe.
You know, sit down and watch it with the family, but warn your granny beforehand, or apply her with Baileys to make her, you know, chilled out enough to not mind.
So after knowing all this, would you want to be cast in Bridgerton? Don't be shy to share with us in the comments. And thanks for staying super awesome.